a little worked up. And I won't spoil the ending of that, but he decided that, maybe my next book should be about the church and where the church has come and has evolved through this. And so he started looking, especially, again, through the last 15 years, at the evolution and of the conservative church, and where it ended up, and really looked at the changes came from, especially the most visible changes came from when some of these pastors began to introduce politics into their sermons. And people would leave the church because there wasn't like a political fervor in the church. You need to go out and you need to join this party, part of this group. And, if you're not into this, then we don't, that kind of thing. And so these churches were shrinking because they didn't want to be political while these other churches were growing. The book, the guy was really fascinating. And I would never have picked this book up on my own. I would have been scared away by the title. It's called The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory: American Evangelicals in an Age of Extremism. But it talks a lot about the compromises that a lot of these churches are making in their biblical faith and their beliefs to gain congregants. So if we want to be a bigger church, we could be more extreme. I don't recommend it given what he's finding out here. But you would think this book is super complicated by the title. It's a very easy read. He's not complicated. He basically goes from church to church and says, hey, what about this? What about that? And they answer him, and it's not super technical. You're not going to run into a lot of words you don't know. But it's very enlightening because you're like, he'll talk about a pastor and you're like, I know that guy. I've watched that guy on TV, or I've read that guy's book, or, and he's asking, but the Bible says this, why are you doing this? I don't understand. And he talks to the churches that are losing members, and he talks to the churches that are gaining members. But I really think this is an important book, especially in this election year, because he talks a lot about, like I said, political stuff and the compromises some of these churches have made, to become more normal. Because once they start getting members, it's really sad because the leaders of the church begin to feed on that. It's like, oh, we're popular now. What can we do to get more? They become member greedy. But what I've done, I wanted to send some of this book to some of my friends, so I ordered a bunch of copies. I'm going to put these copies down in the library because, like I said, I think this is an important book, especially in an election year. Some of this will be a surprise. I find it to be more depressing than anything else. I would say he's not a Christian writer. He's a writer who's a Christian, because you're not getting this from a biblical perspective unless he's kind of contradicting what these Christian leaders are telling him. But I'm going to put several copies of this down, probably at the end of the week, down on the table next to the flag, next to the bookshelf. They won't have sign-out cards in them because I meant them to go other places after this. But there will be a sign-out sheet. Like I said, it's not a tough read. It's kind of depressing. I recommend that you read the introduction because then you really get a sense of why he's choosing to do this. But I do think it's a very important book. I don't read a lot of nonfiction. I don't even read a lot of anything anymore. But, I just felt compelled to, after I saw this guy's interview, to get this book. You will not be able to turn it, put it down, because you'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't believe that. I don't believe they did this. I don't believe this group. Because, it's about all these compromises that are made in the name of faith. And then, and these people are blinded. They're like, we're growing, so we must be doing something right. Well, so like I said, by the end of the week, some of these should begin to show up on that table down there. But I wanted to let people know. There'll be a little blurb in the newsletter, but I do think it's an important book.
So in case you don't know, Brent leads our library ministry. And so thanks, Brent, for always putting books in front of us that we need to be reading. Thank you. Let's continue our worship as we have our prelude.